ready to shop till you drop.
Mhm.
And that is happening Thursday, July 16th, I believe. So it's in about a week. And I think Diggs will be putting this information in our chat. Something else that's really cool that's going on is we have an ambassador program. So I think it really fits in with the theme of today being your social media blueprint. So Women Accelerators will bring you into a group of ambassadors, a group of like-minded individuals, and kind of give you the tools you need to kickstart your social media. With the backdrop of Women Accelerators, we will give you some example posts that you can use on your Twitter, on your Instagram, on your LinkedIn, and kind of, go in that direction. And, we're looking for people to join our beta group, being our first group that we've ever done before, which is really exciting. So we really want your feedback. We want you guys to join and kind of be part of this community. You guys will be able to talk to each other as well as part of this ambassador program and get feedback from each other and communicate, network with each other. So I think it's a really good opportunity. You can find that information on our website, or just email ambassadors@womenaccelerators.org, and we can start setting you up, which is awesome. Did I miss anything, Diggs?
That's perfect. You covered everything. All of the links are in the chat now. Thank you, Gianna.
Thanks so much. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, my name's Gianna. I've been with the organization for several months now. I'm the president of Women Accelerators, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. You can also, our email's right on this page, info@womenaccelerators.org. All right, let's take it away, Dr. Garcia.
All right, so nice to meet everybody. How's everyone doing? So you guys have to be patient with me as I'm multitasking, but I love a lot of engagement. So I'm first gonna ask you all to let me know where you're streaming in from and have some excitement and why are you here. So we're gonna kick this off with a very useful poll that we're gonna do right now. And it's just gonna let me know why you're here today. So first of all, welcome. You'll get to know a little bit about me, but what I love to do, first of all, is have you be very engaging. So in the chat box, let me know, how do you feel about being here today? Where are you streaming in from? And when you think about social media, what comes to mind? So welcome. My name is Dr. Allana Todman-Da Graca. I'm so happy to be here. I want to thank Women Accelerators for inviting me, and I'm just part of the party with you guys. And I hope today is very useful as well as pragmatic so that you can start getting some tips and some tools with regards to how to kickstart your social media. So I'm going to launch this poll, and all you want to do is complete the answers. So these questions ask things like, why did you come to the training during COVID-19? I'm most concerned about. So just take a moment and complete this poll for me, and we'll be able to see why we're all here today. How about that? And I'm from Boston. While you guys answer these questions, I'm from Boston, and I left Boston in 2004 to live in Atlanta, Georgia. And then in 2014, I took this courageous decision to move to Europe, of all things. And it was in that time living abroad where I realized, oh my goodness, I was hiding all of my dreams to be an entrepreneur and a business owner in luggages. That's right. I was actually taking all of these ideas that I've had over the last 20 years of educating and putting these ideas in a luggage. So what I'd like to do is, while I'm chatting, I love engagement. So if you are enjoying what I'm saying while I'm chatting, if you have questions, put those in the chat box, because I will be looking at your questions. I will be answering them as I'm going through. So thankful, Miss Joy, I see you from my tribe. Also, just want to let you know that this is your time to really get clear around how you see social media, but also how you may need to pivot when it comes to the use of social media. So let's see what everyone says. I'm gonna wait a few moments. Let's go here. Why is everyone in the room? And I'm gonna end the poll, and I'm gonna share the results. So for the most part, 84% of you said you want to upgrade your personal goals. 32% of you said you want to learn how to pivot virtually. 8% of you said you're a business owner. 72% said you're most concerned about your career right now. 20% of you said finances. 20% you're not really tech savvy. How many social media platforms do you have? 24% of you said you have at least one. 16% two, and wow, 36% of you have at least three. Well, I wonder what generation that is. And 28% of you have at least four. How many years in your industry do you have? 36%, 1 to 6%, 6 to 12, 40%, 12 to 20, 12%, and 20 to 40, 12%. Interesting. Have you thought about becoming an entrepreneur? Wow, 48% of you say, I have to give me a second, let people in. 48% of you say yes. 16% of you say no. I have a side hustle. 8% not sure. 32%. Perfect. When I think about social media for business, I feel 44% of you say excited. 8% of you say anxious, 40% of you say overwhelmed. I completely get it. And 16% of you say, I'm just not sure. And the last question is, I'm ready to take radical action to upgrade in my goals today. Well, look at you guys. Can you please put smiley face? Now, let me just show you how you can engage in here while we're going. If you just look at the bottom of your screen, you can put reactions. That lets me know what's happening, because as you guys know, it's easy to be zoomed out. So the best way to avoid that is to try to engage with emojis. Let me know how you're feeling. But wow, we're in a great room right now, because this is exactly where my sentiments are, because I can attest to understanding that feeling of overwhelm. All right, guys, and give me 1 second to switch gears here. So welcome to this Kickstart webinar, and give me a few moments to just share my screen. But I'm excited to see you all today. All right, and I've seen all the places that you guys are streaming in from, so that's awesome. And give me 1 more second. Okay, perfect. And again, I'll be answering your questions all throughout this, so feel free to put your questions in the chat box. So let's begin today. Today is part 1 of 3 series. And why did I do that? Well, I've also been doing this workshop in other places here, whether here in Boston or even online. And instead of flooding you with so much information at a one shot, we decided to do a 3-part series. So I'm super happy that you're here today. And today is to really understand, our goals for today is to really understand the fundamentals of social media use as you think about how you can pivot either in your professional life, or maybe many of you said you're thinking about starting a new business, so you're in the right room. All right. And today I'm going to take a little time to talk about not just so much social media use, because as you can see, many of you already use social media, but now we're going to pivot that discussion and talk about how this really relates to you in terms of how you can upgrade in your personal goals or even in your professional goals. So today, as I mentioned before, I would love a lot of engagement. I want to know things like where you're streaming in from, write your area of interest, personal or professional. So if you're in a specific industry or you're in school or whatever it might be, put that in the chat box. Don't be shy. I would really suggest that you commit to the 3-part series, because if you really take your notes and you have all of this information between this series from today, part 2 and part 3, you really are going to have a good foundational understanding of what some of the things are in terms of what you're going to have to do to really upgrade. And this is whether or not you're just advancing in your professional life or you are advancing as a business owner. All right, so some of the other things, use the contact tools to virtually connect with me. So I'm going to ask you to do this backwards, because a lot of people wait till the end. If you really are kind of serious about taking goals, just make sure that you automatically follow me today. Here are just some of the groups that you can find, because we're doing a contest for those of you that are the most engaged. I love rewarding engagement. So if you are really active, if you put the most comments in today, I am rewarding someone today here with a $50 Amazon gift card. Ta-da! See, I'm excited about you guys being here. So many of you, if you've read my bio, you know that I'm not only a social media guru, but I've also had extensive years of experience teaching digital communication, teaching social media strategy, for a lot of notable schools, whether that's Walden University online or here at Northeastern presently, where I teach digital storytelling, or whether that's teaching international learners. I am so committed to this because I remember when I started using new media almost 18 years ago, and people asked me, what do you do? And I would try to explain it and they just didn't get it. But now due to COVID, everyone gets it, right? So it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I think I get it. We all need to find a way to really up level what we're doing. So I've been featured, you know, in places like the Epoch Times, Wicked Local, BNN, iTunes. I have podcasts on there. I've given a TEDx talk. I've traveled the world. I love doing what I do every single day. And I just need to say that it wasn't always that way. As I mentioned to you before, there I was living abroad with all of my ideas in a luggage. And when I came back home, I decided not to return to Atlanta, but to return to Boston. So then I had this really eerily feeling like, how am I going to do what I love and kickstart a business online? And how do you do it? Because everyone I met, everyone I talked to about, you know, being able to offer trainings and virtual events and things like that, everyone I asked, they said, you'll never be able to be a business owner doing that. No one ever does that. You're going to have to do it the traditional way. So in the beginning, you know, it was really difficult. And I will never forget what it was like to have to pivot myself. I will never forget when I said, okay, I'm not going to return to a regular full-time job. I'm actually going to you know, really go at it as an entrepreneur, and I'm going to do it with social media. Well, I'll tell you, it was overwhelming. Many of you said, I have felt overwhelmed. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So many of you may have felt that way. Like, you know, how do I pivot right now? I'll tell you part of my story of how I pivoted. So when I came back home and I decided, okay, I'm going to do something different, I picked up my phone and I'm going to do something live while you guys are watching me. Again, make sure that you are taking notes using Dr. D Inspire with a Y and just letting people know on your social media handles that you're tuning in. So when I felt overwhelmed, the first thing I just said, well, if social media, if you can really up level your professional life with social media and really start a consulting business, I need to go live on Instagram. So very rarely, and I'm going to do this right now while you guys are looking, make sure you're commenting if you're enjoying. But one of the things I did was I said, well, I'm going to go live and see what happens. So I'm going live. Hey, everybody, it's yours truly, Dr. D Inspire. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just want to let you guys know something. It's never too late to kickstart your new goals or your new business. So DM me today. All right. So there I am giving, you know, a live on Instagram. And I thought it was the weirdest thing because I said, well, there's no one here. So why would I do this? Does this really work? Well, I kept doing it day in and day out. And there was one ambiguous day where it just felt like it was a waste of time. So I put my phone down and someone reached out to me and she said, Dr. D, I'm in London. It's 2 a.m. here. Why are you not on? And that's when I realized, wait a minute, there's something more to social media. And so I want to let you know that feeling of social media being ambiguous, especially if you're a professional or a new business owner, that's a normal feeling to have. Because I felt that the moment I went live, right? I wanted to be able to distinguish my use of social media. And we'll talk more about that as I go on. But I just want you to know I can relate to, you know, because a lot of times you can look at someone like me who's a micro influencer and say, oh, wow, this person has done so much. But we all started somewhere. So I just want you to know that. So even now, when we think about COVID-19, I want to ask you, I mean, what are you thinking about in terms of your concerns? Like if we looked at what's going on right now in the industry, 39% unemployment rate for those people who work in leisure and hospitality, wholesale and retail, 17% government workers, 9% professional and business services, 10%. And I could go on. Even individuals who did have their own consulting business, or maybe they did event planning, they are also noticing a mega shift. And so one of the hardest things to do is to kind of look at this and say, well, how do I take what I normally would do in a traditional realm, and how do I now switch this and pivot it online? Not to just be online like you would if you were on Instagram or Facebook, just kind of liking things, but how do you pivot where there's a purpose, there's meaning, and it really aligns towards your industry? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Social media defined is any form of electronic communication through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. Now let's look at how social media adaptation has been used. Now these statistics are from the Pew Research Center, and this is like far back as 2018, so this has definitely advanced since then. But we can look at it, and we can look at this bar graph, and we can look at how generations use social media. You know, we can see 18 plus, right? 78% own a smartphone. Millennials, 92%, Gen Xers, 85%. But if you looked across all of these forms, whether it's a smartphone, tablet, social media, everyone for the most part is using some form of electronic communication. Everyone is pretty much tapped into, like I said, these different forms of online media. And so, and even more so, right, with COVID-19, we even saw how the stocks of Zoom quadrupled just because of COVID and people having to shift their meetings online. So when we think about this, and when we think about, you know, who we are, a lot of times it's interesting because even professionals kind of don't realize that we're all in a stage right now where we have to brand ourselves professionally. Now, I know most people say, well, I'm not really I don't really have an online presence, and I'm not really this individual. Well, I want to let you know something. More and more of us are all going to have to figure out, how do I need to show up online? Like most people get LinkedIn, right? So many people have a LinkedIn account. Let me know if you have one. Many people already have a Facebook, but there are some other things that we're really going to have to do to distinguish ourselves as professionals, leaders, and maybe even entrepreneurs. So when you think about this, I'm just looking, making sure I'm not missing anything. Don't forget to put comments and questions as I'm talking. But when you think about this, Megan says she has a LinkedIn. How many of you actually have a LinkedIn account? Can you put that in the chat box? How many of you have a LinkedIn account, and how many of you have a Facebook page? How many of you have a blog? So LinkedIn, 1, number 2, Facebook, 3, how many of you have a blog or anything like that? All right, I would love to know as we continue. But you know, LinkedIn would be one of the basic things that you can have. But I want to talk to you a little bit about why you would want a LinkedIn account, because there are opportunities all around you. Can you put that in the chat box? There are opportunities all around you. And one of the things, if we see the economy shifting, we definitely are going to have to adapt. And we're definitely going to have to see ourselves as brand ambassadors for our own professional industries. I know. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I hate having myself on video, or I hate having myself like a photo of me, even if you use the avatar, you want to have some kind of social media presence. So today is just about fundamentals. We're not going deeper than that today. And we're talking about some of the basic things that you need. So if you know that all across industries, most people are having access to any forms of these tools, you definitely want to show up someplace. So these are some of the things that you want to think about. All right, so let me go back to this. Now, a lot of you said, when I asked you, how do you feel? Oh, I feel really overwhelmed. And you're not the only one. So a lot of times people are like, well, I know social media, you know, I know people use it. I know it's a lot, but what does it all mean? Well, living in a Web 2.0 world is everything. 2 dimensions, right? So now we're not just consuming, you know, back in the late 90s, it was enough just to have a website, or it was enough to have what we call a static page, which is just like, you know, someone goes to your website and you know, it just leads you to learning more information about that person, but it doesn't really take you anywhere. But nowadays we know that if social media is used well, you have viral capability, you can have a boost in sales or contracts, you can have things like trainings, asynchronous and synchronous trainings, so at the same time or even on demand. And not only that, the world becomes smaller because now you're able to have these international conversations with people streaming in from all over the world, given, you know, what organizations or companies you're a part of. So that in itself can be very overwhelming. And the other piece to this is, you know, a lot of times people say, well, you know, it's just too much. I'd rather not do anything. But let me just share something. Research showed yesterday that there are 3 types of people right now, given what's going on with COVID. There are those individuals who are going to do nothing. So they're going to basically try to wait this out. There are other individuals that are starting to become innovative and thinking, okay, how do I take my skill sets and shift them over in my industry? And 3, how do I offer some kind of unique service to a given industry. So I want to ask you, how are you dealing with COVID, and what's your strategy? Because all of us have to have a strategy moving forward. Companies are having conversations, people are having conversations. So if you're not having a conversation about what does this pivot online actually mean, today might be your day to take radical action. So today I'm going to be giving you so many tips about how you can take radical action, and make sure you comment a lot. I want to give away a number of things. I'm giving away one free virtual session valued at $450. I'm giving away a $50 Amazon gift card. So if you're someone who really needs an upgrade, now's your time to respond. All right, so let me get back to my slides. All right, so when you think about all of this, you have to ask yourself, what will be my why moving forward? Right? So for me, when I was starting my own business, I had to figure out, why am I doing this, and why do I want to be online, and what will be my purpose of being online? Well, do you remember the story I just told you when I opened up and I said I decided to go live on Instagram? I never would have imagined that from that experience that I would kick off a conference where 23 women would come from all over the United States and 2 from outside of the country, all to say, let's reach personal and professional goals. And our hashtag was, it's time for us to upgrade. I want to upgrade my life, hashtag UPML. So I want you guys to join in the party and put hashtag UPML if there are some areas in your life that you want to upgrade when it comes to your profession or when it comes to your business. And so for me, I had to really have what I call incubation time. Now, Albert Einstein was known for having these long hours of pondering where he would sit and think. So I actually recommend to everyone, have your own what I call incubation period. And it usually will take around 24 to 48, somewhere between 2 days or so, where you kind of really get clear about who you are, what industries you're in, all the skill sets that you've learned, whether you've been in school or whether you've learned a trade. Like, you really need to sit down and really journal out all your skill sets, what you're trying to do now, what you've done up until this point, and how you can serve your industry or maybe even start a new business. So for me, when I had that incubation, I really had to get clear around the fact that I wanted to help women realize that for them, a large part of my target are women who are older, right? So women who are maybe 30 or 35 and up. And, really realizing I really wanted to help those women see that age had no limitation, that they could, if they could think it and they could ideate and they could systemize their idea, they could actually show this online and be able to capture and serve the people that they wanted to serve. So essentially forming this, what I call this tribe of individuals, all started from my use of Instagram, of just going live. And now today, from that point of since 2014, we have served at least 10,000 participants in all of our workshops, our trainings, our seminars, and our special events. Wow, that's a lot of people. And I want to say the beauty of that, my why, was being able to see that people could be interconnected, that people could say to themselves, you know what, I might not be tech savvy, but as long as I have a clear understanding of what it is that I'm doing, I know my why, like why I'm even on these social media platforms. I understand what I'm trying to do in my industry if I'm a leader and I'm working in a field, and I can use these social media tools as a way to leverage my skill sets. All right. And so for me, that's one of the rewards, of seeing so many of my clients happy. Some of them are on here today. So Indiana, Nikisha, good to see you guys. But it's really wonderful to see them thriving. So I want to talk about the opportunities that actually exist. Now, if you're already working in a given industry, most people know now that you have to still think very creatively as to how to sustain yourself. And so being in this kind of space we're in right now, did you know that there are still thousands of people right now as we speak looking for insight, looking for opportunity, looking for courses, looking for ebooks, looking for tutoring, consulting, speaking, digital selling. They're looking for tools online. And one of the things I always challenge people, if you really wanted to take radical action, is take some of that knowledge that you have and try to ask yourself, if I were going to package maybe one component of something I know really well, how would I actually do it? How could I actually systemize something I know how to do well, whether maybe it's something in your industry or something else that you've always known to do and people always tell you, wow, you're really good at that thing. How could you take that and break it down? Well, I want to share with you something that completely shocked me. So as a business owner, I started in academia, so I didn't start out just as an entrepreneur. So when I first started, I created a digital product called Women Build Confidence. And I just put it out there in the marketplace. And there was a fashion school in London, of all things, that reached out to me and said, Allana, we want to buy a number of units of your digital course. And at that time, that was like 2000 and sometime before 2012 or so. At that time, I had no idea that, I could take the knowledge that I had and put it into some kind of digital space and allow people from all over the world to access it. And then it really opened my mind, because I was just thinking at the time of, people right here in the United States. I wasn't thinking about people abroad. So that opened the doorway for me to see, wow, people, literally thousands of people, are looking for the solutions that we have either studied, trained for, have a know-how for. And so if you're looking at how you can level up and strengthen what you're doing, go ahead and try to think, well, what are some of the opportunities that I could utilize? How could I maybe create a digital course, or how could I use my social media platforms to really leverage what it is that I'm doing? All right, I'm seeing you guys excited, putting hashtag UPML. Indiana says, I'm moving forward. I'm taking coaching courses. Yes. Should you have 2 LinkedIn accounts? I'll talk about that. Awesome. All right, so we're going on. So yeah, so as I'm sharing, if you have anything that you want to ask as I'm talking, feel free to do so. How many of you are still with me? I'm not going to keep going until I know you're still tuned in, your notes are there, and you are ready to go. So, when you're thinking about all of this, realize that there really are opportunities. So if you haven't thought about doing an ebook, look, there are millions of people on Amazon right now looking for the solutions that you know about. Again, consulting, speaking, digital selling. So we are essentially living in a gig economy, right? And so one of the things that if you were to do any research right now, Pew Research Center, look at the United States Department of Labor statistics, there are some jobs that have not even been created yet because of all of this influx of communicating online. So with that said, this could also be an opportunity for you to get really creative. Now, I know people are really scared about the economy and what's going on, but did you know that there were pandemics before? And even in those times, the printing press was created. Shakespeare still decided to write Macbeth. So there were opportunities prior, where pandemics occurred. And it's going to be up to us to be so creative as to how we're going to keep our own wheels moving along. So I'm going to talk to you about what I call the click method. And today, because we're doing part 1, we're only going to go over the first 2 letters. And so when I think about you upgrading in your personal life or in your professional life, I think about click. 1, having a clear message. Now, a lot of times when we think about this, most people don't realize that, I need to really show up online a little more aligned. Like, I want my Facebook page, I want my Instagram, I want my website, and anything else to really align with a unique message. So I'm going to kind of dissect this conversation into 2 parts. So if you're looking just to upgrade in your professional life, it's the same thing. One of the things that's happening, and it's a debate, right? One of the things, and I used to talk to this with my students at Bentley when I was there, was the fact that more and more companies are starting to look at the students or the people applying for these jobs as brands within themselves. They're not only, when you're applying to that job or you're trying to get that promotion, other component that's not necessarily talked about is the fact that people are going to start, they want to know, where's your online portfolio? They want to know, how do you show up on LinkedIn? Are you having great conversations? Are you doing anything innovative? Is there a blog that I can find? So you want to start, if you're looking to upgrade in your professional life, I would challenge you to start to try to create some kind of online portfolio. And you can start that simply by using a tool like WordPress or even Wix or any kind of blog site, or even you can create your own, but it should really highlight you as the expert or the industry leader. That way, if you're applying to work or you're freelancing or you're doing gigs or whatever, people can now logically go to your website or go to whatever that platform is and see one of your themes. So one of the things you have to realize is that people have limited time, and one of the things they want to see quickly is video. Video has 400% more reach than anything else. People are scrolling through when they wake up in the morning, they're scrolling through LinkedIn. When they wake up in the morning, they're scrolling through Facebook. So if you have a regular Facebook page, go ahead and create just a public page. You can do that and have some kind of privacy, but you want to show up as the professional. And that goes for you if you're building your professional persona, or if you're building yourself as maybe you're a consultant or a coach or a trainer. So you want to ask yourself, what message am I conveying when I'm across all these media streams? A fun way, and when we think about this, as I talk to my students also at Northeastern, you have to think about the story that you're telling. Now, I know you guys have seen The Wizard of Oz, many of you. Do you remember when Dorothy was going down the yellow brick road and she was like, we're off to see the wizard? And, they were singing and they were going down this yellow brick road. Well, I want you to kind of get that exposition. Exposition is kind of like the foreground. When we're seeing a movie, we see the exposition first. You want to see yourself as telling this story about who you are, right, in your profession, what you're capable of. And if you are a person who's more of an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. You are telling a story. And so what happens, right, whether you are on LinkedIn or whether you're on any of these platforms, is that with time, the algorithm builds based upon how you're telling that story, based upon how you're connecting yourself across industry. So you want to start thinking about that. And if you haven't started to think about that, it's okay, because today maybe is your first day. So maybe you decide, you know what, I need to get a blog going, or you know what, I need to really look at my LinkedIn and update it. All right. So you might want to think about that. And then the next letter here, you really want to be able to locate the need. So if you were to look at the message that you want to provide, I would suggest that you pick one of the platforms that you have a lot of people that are already engaging with you. Just pick one of them. That can be like your beta, where you're kind of using that to kind of showcase your know-how and how you would be able to appeal to the needs of those that you want to serve, right? So if you're someone, for example, you're a tech consultant, or maybe there's something that you provide, well, when that person goes to your Facebook page or to your website, they want to be able to not just know that you're this awesome person, they automatically want to be able to have something met, like some kind of need met. So you want to ask yourself today, okay, what's the message I'm conveying across all media streams, and what need can I fill? So if you're looking for work, that's the clear message is, hey, I can be the solution to this area, and this is who I am, and this is how my background can help. But then highlight a few things. So, maybe you have a couple of images of yourself serving at a conference, or maybe you have maybe a prototype of something you've done, and you just want to talk about it. These are great ways for people to visually have a sense of who you are. All right. And so I can see that with my clients, right? This woman on my left, she always had a traditional business of being a health and fitness coach, but she wanted to be able to pivot online. So we worked together to create an online coaching program, and she's doing well. This other woman lives in another country, and she coaches teenagers towards feeling more confident. This other woman, Karen, she works in the seafood farm industry, but is deciding to use her skill sets and training and development in a myriad of ways. And this other woman here has a commercial cleaning business. So you can see all these different industries here, and they have all found ways to pivot online. So I would ask you, what is your why? When you think about your use of social media post-COVID, why do you think it will be essential for you? Will it be because you'll be using it to start a new business? Will it be because you are deciding to really upgrade in your professional life? Now, I ask you that because each social media form can be utilized for different things. I'm going to just stop sharing for a second. So when you're thinking about social media, right, not every social media platform works for every industry. So let me just talk about this, right? So if someone were in, for example, the restaurant industry, then Instagram is a great place because people love looking at, food that looks great and they want to have a new experience. I mean, right now, obviously, people aren't really going to restaurants so much, but that might be an example. People who are working on fitness and goals, Instagram is also a good tool. But if someone were creating a business where they were trying to reach out to Generation Y and younger, they might decide to use Snapchat, right? If someone wanted to kind of do something where they're kickstarting a program for youth, they would probably be on TikTok. So, and then again, LinkedIn is your go-to place for connecting with professionals. So I want to talk about LinkedIn though, because I think a lot of times people say, well, I have a LinkedIn and that's pretty much it. I want to give you some sneaky, juicy nuggets to take with you today. So did you know that there are a lot of opportunities within LinkedIn? So here's a couple of things I want to ask you to do. Number one, make sure you go and find a few professional groups in your industry and join into the conversation. There are a lot of conversations happening around job offers, what's going on, innovations, every single day right in LinkedIn. So if you haven't joined a professional group, then I would suggest that you do so, like this one. This is an awesome group. But if you want to also grow and expand your network, find a couple of groups that you can engage in. And then number two, there is a tool in LinkedIn called LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now, if you're someone who's a consultant or a coach or a trainer, you probably want, you have to add on, so there's a fee for it. But if you do that, you're really able then to kind of narrow down your purpose on there and just kind of find other people that really relate to your niche or your industry. Let me look at some of the comments. Indiana says, I want to start my own coaching and consulting business, writing a book, and how do I create my portfolio and brand myself? Awesome. Raphael says, I've enjoyed the ability to express myself through poetry and photography. Friends and family are learning about my talents, and I'm loving the passion I'm finding. I love that, Raphael. I guess we're two fellow poets. That's great. Knowledge of social media is essential to my success as an educator, interacting and engaging with my students. Perfect. So when you think about all of this, is LinkedIn useful for academics and faculty? Yes, Christy. There are a lot of awesome conversations happening around research, how to pivot. There's a lot of courage circles happening on LinkedIn right now. There's just a plethora of things going on. So it does, what I tend to do is every morning, maybe not every morning, but at least 3 times a week, I'll try to jump into an awesome conversation. So people from around the world are on there having meaningful conversations. So find a way to access that. And let me just go back here. All right, awesome. So you really want to think about your why. And it sounds like some of you are really thinking about this clearly. So here are my 5 things to leave us with today. I say, number 1, I think in order for us to pivot, we have to take radical action, which means we cannot have what I call CMF plans. Cross my fingers plans. Cross my fingers plans are the worst plans because you're kind of hoping that things work out. But I say, you have to really set aside some time to really be intentional about your strategy as to how you want to actually be online. So if you've just been online liking things and, looking at your friends' posts, that's great. But at some point, you do want to ask yourself, okay, what's my purpose of being on LinkedIn? Or what's my purpose of being on Instagram? Or etc., or all of the other ones. And if you didn't really have a purpose, but now you're looking to upgrade, you really want to take time to think about your rationale, as I mentioned before. Number 2, we talked about the LinkedIn profile. Now you want to clean it up. Number 3, professional brand alignment. So again, making sure that you're using appropriate hashtags. If you're in LinkedIn, I would suggest that you try to do a post, post a quote or post an image or post something that you're doing using the allocated hashtag for your industry. Why would I ask you to do that? Well, that raises the algorithm of people being able to see your post. That lets others in the industry know that you exist. And it's much more exciting and engaging to, follow someone and to kind of see if they're part of some kind of new project, or something is about to be pre-launched, or you're getting ready to do X, Y, and Z. We love seeing that on LinkedIn. So if that's something you haven't done, you want to really beef up your game. Now, the other piece to this is, I would say, conduct a SWOT of self. What do I mean by that? So most people understand the SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of business. But I also would suggest that you do it for yourself. Like, look at the things that you love that are your natural hotspots. Like most of the time people in their industries are really good at what they do, but then the weakness might be procrastination, or not taking enough time to think about how you show up online. Opportunities: what are all of the opportunities? So if you have the incubation I was talking about, there are so many opportunities around you every single day to upgrade in your finances, to upgrade as a consultant or a coach. The thing is, you just have to show up differently. And it's all about that digital story that you're telling. Whether you decide to say, okay, I have a Facebook page, or I have an Instagram, or I'm going to use these 2 pages and they're only going to be around industry related topics, or they're going to be around my new business or my new project. So you're really going to have to think about that story. The other thing I always suggest is, you should always have 3 CTAs, or what I call 3 touch points. So when someone goes to your website, right, it's not just like a static web page, but there's like 3 things, like, hi, join me today at my weekly coffee meeting, virtual coffee meeting, and then join my professional page. And then lastly, maybe get a book or an ebook or something like that. But there should always be an opportunity for people to take action and to do something, because most people now are looking to take action, right? So you want to think about all of these things. And so one of the number one things you don't want to do is, I'm looking for a job, hire me. No, we don't want to see that. We want to just see you, we want to see the real part of you. Authenticity is everything right now. So video, whether you decide to do podcasts, whether you decide to just have a strong blog or a strong web presence that leads us to take action, that's great. So I know I'm speaking fast, and I always leave room for questions. And so I want to just say, Susu says, I'm nervous about going live on Facebook or Instagram. How do you plan to do one? Oh, I'm glad you asked, because we will have in one of our other sessions, that's what we will actually be talking about. And I will have a plug and play tech sheet for you guys to use to understand how you can go live. So I will just say, how many of you feel the way that Susu feels? Like, you're just like, oh, I don't really want to go live. One of the number one things I have found is that most people in the tech world, or most people who are really good at one thing, right, they kind of say, oh my goodness, I'm not good at the other. So I want to ask you a question. What brings you the most angst when it comes to pivoting online? Is it being on video? Is it having to go live, as Susu said? Is it the idea that it's just too much? I would love to see your comments in the chat box. So I want to answer this question. So one of the number one things, Vina says, all of the above. Okay, I love it. One of the things I would highly suggest is to, and I really mean this, if you are serious about kind of getting out of your shell and learning as much as possible, commit to these 3 series. I can't, because we're going to be talking about not only the general use of social media, but we're going to talk about the hashtag and how to actually go live, and how to measure your analytics when you do these things, so you can see that it's not just ambiguous waste of time. So one of the number one things you can do, I'll challenge some of you, make sure to go and find me on hashtag IWBCC. I'll make sure to share that slide with you in a second. But one of the things that you want to do is simply this. If you think about your organization's mission and you think about the purpose of what you're doing, take yourself out of the equation and ask yourself, what would happen if I don't lead in this capacity? Or what will happen if I don't create the space? Like, this platform, Women Accelerator, is awesome, right? So that means that there are so many other women right now. There are literally thousands of other women and individuals, supporters, who want to be a part of this platform, but they won't know about it unless the leaders decide, you know what, we need to beef up our game. And honestly, because so many people are consuming video, they're looking for video. So let's talk about this. And I really appreciate you guys being honest. I don't judge you. I know I seem like a natural speaker, but really I'm that kind of introvert that could be fine sitting on my couch and watching either listening to jazz or just writing all day. So I completely get you. And what I had to get out of myself was that, wait a minute, why do I want to serve the community's womenpreneurs and individuals? Why do I want to do it? And so when I had that in mind and I decided to go live, you guys can't see you can see my phone. I decided to go live. It was awkward. I mean, I felt dumb in the beginning because I was like, nobody is tuning in. But you have to get out of your head, so you have to start, you have to really envision those individuals that you would normally see in a regular room. You have to envision that they really are out there, because I could do a video right now. I could go live somewhere and it could say 0 people watched today, but I can go back a year later and I can see that 400 people viewed. And so we have to get out of ourselves. And one of the first things I would suggest is, before you go live, how about just do a video of yourself that you can look at? I mean, if you really wanted to test this out, try to take your mission statement, for example, if you have like a project that you're on, and I want you to stand in front of the video or your phone, right? You can hold your phone and just say, hello, my name is so-and-so, and I want to tell you about my organization. And we believe in 1, 2, and 3, and just try that. Now, it will feel weird, but you got to start somewhere. So one of the first things I will challenge you to do is to take radical action. So maybe for you, maybe your homework is, oh my goodness, I'm just going to videotape myself trying to do an introduction to my organization, like just a hello, and play it back to yourself. And just keep playing it back to yourself every day so you can get used to you seeing yourself talking. Now, there are other tools, though, that you can use if you don't like showing up on video. You can use avatars. You can use a tool called Doodly. And Doodly allows you to basically, record what you want to say. And then Doodly has a tool within its software that has like a hand writing out what you're saying. It just makes it look really interesting. So there are so many tools that you can use to, really convey your message, but you just want to get out there, right? You can do the same thing with YouTube. There are a lot of Creative Commons videos right on YouTube that anyone can use, right? So you can have a video with the river moving, but you're talking over it. And maybe that person's like giving peace or something like that. And so they have a video and they don't want to be seen, but they have a video of the river moving and they're talking over the video. You want to figure out which platform you feel most comfortable with. And we'll talk more about it in our second part of the series. So thank you for those questions. And let me just wrap up with what I was going to say. So I also will be sharing with you guys a little more Kickstart My Biz free training. I'll be sharing the link with you shortly. And I want to ask you again to make sure you socially engage, because I'll be looking at the comments today to see who I can give, number 1, a virtual pass to have a one-on-one exchange with me, discovery call. Number 2, I want you to kind of, ask yourself, where do I see myself moving forward? And make sure you follow me on all of these different platforms here. We have a wonderful tribe of women that Susu and others have been invited to. I'll invite you to it, called the International Women Build Confidence Conference. That was the conference that I had formed back in 2018 when it was just 7 of us. And we have grown, and we would love to have you. We're always having lives and videos and complimentary workshops for you to learn more about how to grow in your personal and professional life. But if you really want to take radical action, I also will recommend that you give me a call. Actually, give me a call so we can figure out how to best schedule you and figure out how to help you upgrade in your personal and professional life. Also, I have a BCM assessment that I'm going to leave with you today. So you guys, give me 1 second so that I can actually share that with you. And then I'm going to open the floor for actual questions to see what questions you guys actually have. So you guys give me 1 second. And Yes. So if you have any questions at this time while I'm pulling up this website for you, so you can log in and subscribe, let me know if you have any questions that you would like me to answer, and I would be happy to answer your questions. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today and being a part of this and kind of sharing, you know, what your thoughts are. Here's my website. Feel free to subscribe to my website today. And I'm also going to share with you a few of our free trainings that you can take part in. And so Kickstart My Biz, for those of you who are really at the stage where you're like, how do I actually start a new business? How do I do this online? Feel free to complete this and be a part of the Kickstart My Biz. I'll go more into this about how you can use social media to kind of build engagement and traction. So feel free to be a part of that. But again, come back to the next two segments because we're going to deep dive further into how you can use tools like Instagram and Facebook to really build what I call a tribe of people around you. So I'm going to open the floor. Does anyone have any questions? And you can feel free to, and you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. So I'm going to give you a moment. And don't be shy. You know, there are always great questions. And when you ask a question, you never know. There's usually someone else who had the same question as well.
Hi, I do have a question. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can.
Okay. So perfect. So should you have two LinkedIn accounts if you have, if you're already working on a business, but then you have a side hustle as well?
No. So I can't see. Oh, you must be. Who's talking? Is it Annie?
It's Annie, yeah.
Okay. No. So it's common nowadays that it is very common that people will be both have, you know, a professional job and also have consulting on the side. So it is something that you can have. And, you know, more and more, quite frankly, more and more companies today are actually interested when they see someone kind of really active in their industry, but also at the same time, you know, working at a given entity. So you don't necessarily need to have a separate LinkedIn, but you can't. But if I were you and you had a side hustle, I would probably have a distinct, I would either have like a unique Facebook account that's only dedicated to the side hustle at the start, or I would just have like a website that is just a basic website just for your consulting or whatever it is that you plan on doing. And that way, you know, on your LinkedIn, you know, you can say that you're a consultant, but on your particular website, you know, that can be the focus. You're that go-to person. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so if you're not doing consulting and you're doing like your own brand for a new product that has nothing to do with the original industry that you're working in, then what do you think would be the best way to approach it? The same way to say, hey, have like your professional website, but alongside with like I also sell clothing for hiking or something like that.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So for example, if I were in front of you and I had like a chart, I would have I would kind of have a pie chart, and in the center of that, I would have the brand, so your brand, and then on the outside of that, I would have all of the different variables of that brand. So for example, I'm making this up. So if you were the brand, but you had like an e-store, and you also had like a blog, and you had all these things, I would definitely have a website that's branded around you, the persona. And then that way you're kind of like a one-stop shop. People can access you in these different capacities, but they have one central place to go, so that you're not having like, you know, 40, that's the other thing I want to say. So you don't want to have like 20 different websites. You know, if you can create that one solid site and then have those other themes kind of coming in all to that major platform, then that's better. And then you don't have to necessarily have that on your LinkedIn. Maybe you can have such and such consulting, and you don't really go into it in detail, but for people who have questions, they can then go to your site. So you're not creating tech overwhelm, but you're kind of leading people to, and one of the common things though that I would do, for example, is like, if you know your brand colors and you have if there's a certain message that is just aligns with you as a brand, that's something that could be synonymous across both your LinkedIn and even your website. So that's something I would do. It's kind of like choose how you want to brand. So, okay. Thank you. On behalf of the Women Accelerators team, it was so amazing to have you today, Dr. Da Graca. Can't wait to get started. Awesome. I want to thank you all for coming, but I am going to stay around. So if you guys do have to leave, I completely understand. But if you want to take radical action, I'm going to stay on here for about 15 more minutes because I really feel like I want to answer some of your questions. So I'm not going anywhere. But if you do need to go, I'm so happy to have met you. Please join IWBCC. Please join the Kickstart. Please let me know that you enjoyed today. I appreciate all of you. You have my information, and I can't wait till the next one. So I'm going to hang on for a few moments, and for those of you who still want to chat, I want to thank you all again. This is officially over, and I will have this recording after the replay. I will have it, and I will post it. So you guys just stay tuned. Thank you so much. Now, does anyone else have any last questions they'd like to ask? Awesome, Amy. Great.
Hi.
Hi, Ramya. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Will you please tell me how to pronounce your name? I'm not good at that.
That's okay. It's Da Graca.
Da Graca. Okay. Hi, Dr. Da Graca. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I'm actually not exactly. I'm a student right now in one of the universities in the Boston area, UMass Lowell. I don't know if you've heard
Yay.
of
Oh, I went to UMass Amherst.
Amherst. Okay, nice. That's a very good university. Yeah. So I'm currently in the stage of networking and, connecting with professionals who have, similar goals or, similar fields of interest. I'm in the field of biology and I want to do, step into research. I mean, I'm currently doing a project in the university, but that's not a job as such. It's just a project as part of my course.
Are you planning on creating a portfolio? Because I definitely think you should.
Yes, I think I should. I do have a LinkedIn and a Facebook account, but my Facebook is not very related to my professional work. LinkedIn is, of course, but that's the only platform that I have where I have talked about myself and my experience and all that.
Well, tell me about your LinkedIn. What do you have on LinkedIn right now?
Well, I have put all my educational information, all my experiences, projects, all the research or whatever projects that I have done in the past and what
here's
I'm
something.
doing.
Yeah. So here's something. I have 2 suggestions for you. You ready? It's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the first things you definitely want to do is, now LinkedIn allows you to do, blog posts. If I were you, I would be doing relative to your industry, I would be doing some kind of blog post on LinkedIn, twice a month, but let it be wholesome, like let it be really, really good. And I would also link that to some kind of general website that doesn't have to be like bells and whistles. We're talking like very simple. So when you are kind of positioning yourself, people can just go and they can just be like, oh, look at Ramya, I see her here, and now I can learn more about her. And you're just going to distinguish yourself more than, other individuals. And people will really understand your research, some of the things that you're doing. And that's going to be really important as you move forward.
Okay.
Most people don't think about that, especially like in your industry, but it's becoming, well, actually when COVID hit, one of the things that pharmaceutical, I've been talking to like people in the pharmaceutical industry, and that has been like, oh wait, what do we do? How do we kind of put our information out there? And so that was like one of the number one things I said, like one of the number one things you can do is really have awesome information. But we're not talking about like, we don't need a whole research paper. We just need like, if I were you, I'm a planner. So if I were you, it would be like, if I had 12 months, I would literally be like, okay, for the next 6 months, what are going to be the core themes that really relate to my research? And if you do that, people are going to really, or industry leaders are going to look to that and say, wow, look at what they're going to see you beyond what you've been doing behind the scenes. And they're going to be able to be, they're going to be able to get a sense of you. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to probably know how to reach out to people. I mean, I have been, but probably because I am an unknown person to them and I'm not getting much of a response. Of course, I do get responses from people who have reconnected earlier, but even if we do